like to start, I introduce a little the Italian Trade Commission because the show is going to be by Livio. He's exceptional, but we want to make sure that you understand why you're here. So first of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here and to talk, you know, to bring you a little to Italy. As I was saying before, we were joking with Alicia saying that, you know, usually every year we do a trip to Italy to discover like distillers and our, you know, craftsmen that produce these wonderful drinks that we are going to taste. And this year we cannot, of course. So she's like, you will have the waiting list, you know, full for next year with all the journalists that we have here. So in any case, it's already 3 years that we are working on the Spirits Project. There's many reasons why we are working on the Spirits Project. First of all, because it's a part of our tradition. We usually talk about wines in our office. The Italian Trade Commission is the government agency to promote all the made in Italy, and our team in particular talks about food and wine and spirits and all the beverages in general. And so spirits were a little left behind, unfortunately. And so in the last 2 years, we started promoting them. And then this year is even more important for us because the spirits got the tariffs, so 25% more on the price. So we wanted to help our producer. What we want to help with is to educate not only you, journalists, but also the trade. We are going to do some events. Unfortunately, most of them are postponed or they became virtual, and you already know, you know, all the bar convent, Tales of the Cocktail, Aspen, Boston, all these trade shows that were planned this year, they have been postponed or they became virtual. And we also have a partnership with USBG, so Livia is going to give some other talk in the next weeks for the bartenders. You are luckier because you got the product, so you can taste with us. It's going to be a nice journey. And so what is important for us is to make sure that, you know, you understand the product, the tradition, and the authenticity of our tradition, our products, because that's what, you know, we come from. It's the tradition, it's the craftsmanship. And, you know, we know that there's a lot of product that is called, you know, a lot of producers all over the world now, not just in the US, but also in other countries that produce Amaros, Limoncello, and so on. So we just want to make sure, you know, that maybe we came first. I don't know if you can say, we can say it like that, but, you know, just to understand that there are differences, not better, not worse. You know, we have maybe more tradition, as I said, but we want to make sure that you and the consumers understand that, you know, to look at the bottle, to look at the label and see where the product comes from. And if it's made in Italy, we are happier, of course. So I think that, you know, this is it. We are here. You know, you can talk with Colangelo, you can talk with us. You know, Italian Trade, our office is in New York. You can get in touch with us if you have any question about anything that you want to write about the spirits. And now I think it's time for, you know, that I stop talking and Livio start talking about this amazing product. And, you know, you can pin him so that you can follow him, you know, full screen. And thank you very much again. And, you know, and please ask a lot of questions because Livio really likes to to get into detail. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Paola. I appreciate it. As Paola mentioned, you can hover over my beautiful face, and I believe there's 3 buttons, and if you push the 3 buttons, you will find pin screen, and you can pin me. Can everybody hear me okay? Somebody, I know that you can't answer me, but I'm going to get a message saying no if it's a no. So I'm assuming everybody could hear me very well. I'm excited to be here today. Oh, I get somebody. Yes, we can. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Colange. I appreciate it. So welcome to our virtual tasting and food pairing. It's not that virtual because we all have our products in front of us, but you know, unfortunately, we're not in person, and that does sadden me quite a bit. But at least we will be able to taste our products today. Together. I am going to walk you through an interactive and a tasty journey of some of Italy's most amazing liqueurs, and we're going to discuss the flavor synergies and how they contrast or mesh with food in a wonderful, wonderful way. Before I dive into you know, today's webinar and I get too much deep into it, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I realize that these are different times, and the fact that you have still took the time to join me today and spend the time together is not something that we take lightly. We really appreciate it, and hopefully, really, from the bottom of my heart, one day we will be together in the same room and get to meet each other in person, talk about our passions, and of course, drink Italian. This tasting, of course, is brought to you by the Italian Trade Commission, the Italian Trade Agency. I just wanted to remind everybody of that. And I want to thank them. Of course, I want to thank Colangelo and obviously our partner brands. The partner brands, I'm going to show them to you now in the order we will be drinking them. So the first one is Pallini Limoncello. The second one is Amaro Ramazzotti. The third one is Meletti Sambuca. And the fourth one is the legendary Liquore Strega. And again, thank you, of course, for spending time together. My name is Livio, and I grew up on an island in the Gulf of Naples on the Amalfi Coast called Ischia. I spent 20 years there of my life. And not only did I experience liqueurs like these and the lifestyle just at the dinner table and at the bars and at the cafes and during the aperitivos, I also was a bartender and a barista there for over 10 years. So I got to experience firsthand the expression on people's faces when you serve them these products. I do seminars and I do trainings of all types. I teach on every subject matter in the liquor category. But this specific family here really touches my heart. I'm reading something. Love the Amalfi Coast. Yes, yes, so do I. I miss it. I had to cancel 2 trips so far, but we will get there. Today's going to be interactive, and please comment and ask questions as much as you can, because that will help me better walk us through the journey that we are going to take together. And so just remember, all questions are welcome, all comments are welcome. If there's anything you thought I missed and you've been to the Amalfi Coast or you've been somewhere that I should add, I would love to hear it. Now, you're probably familiar with the concept of food pairing, and that when pairing a beverage with food, the intention is to make the combination of the two greater than the individual pieces, right? So pairing food with wine, the food will taste better thanks to the wine, and the wine will taste better thanks to the food. And of course, pairing can be a very subjective matter. However, I do feel that there are some principles that you can follow to make the process a little less vague, because there's no fun in somebody saying, oh, this goes with everything. Well, if it goes with everything, then can you narrow it down a little bit? One thing that is for sure is that when you're pairing very flavorful liqueurs, the game is very different than what it is when you're pairing it versus wine or beer or sake. Fermented beverages are subtle, and they have these nice little nuanced flavors. They might taste lemony, or they might taste minerally, or they might taste you know, a slightly eucalyptic, or they'll give like a vinegar component to your food. But when it comes to these liqueurs, these products here, they're big, bold, rich, thick, syrupy, yummy, chewy. And so because of that, we go through a different concept. So when I talk about pairing liqueurs with food, I kind of eliminate the whole thirst quenching, food flushing, big sips concept of it, and I apply different rules, right? And so to avoid those challenges, we're going to do something that I found works great with pairing liqueurs. We're going to raise the glass, of course. Once we get there, I promise we will be drinking soon. We're going to nose. We're going to smell it. We're going to take a sip. Then we're going to swish, 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 swish. Then we're going to swallow it. And then we're going to pair the food with the aftertaste, right? Not with the beverage itself, because the aftertaste is really what's the seasoning that's going on. Now, I'm going to show you an example. This is an old fashioned, right? The old fashioned is one of the oldest cocktails ever made: spirits, bitter, sugar, and water, right? And quite honestly, it's stood the time for so many years, and people still drink it very amazingly. However, there's another historical and amazing cocktail that you may have heard of called the Sazerac. And the Sazerac is a very similar recipe. The difference between a Sazerac and an old-fashioned is, pardon me if I just pull it up, is in a Sazerac, we do what is called a rinse. Now, the bitters might be slightly different. In Sazerac, we can add orange, and the garnish could be lemon. But the two recipes are actually whiskey, sugar, bitters, water. But the Sazerac has this coating of the glass with absinthe. I'm doing it with Sambuca. The two both have Amatil flavors, and they are similar enough. And so once you coat the glass and you drain out the contents, right? I'm going to do that right now. Then, in essence, this old-fashioned just became a Sazerac. Now, why would you do that? This old-fashioned is 200+ years old. It's an amazing cocktail because there's something to be said about seasoning. And now this seasoned old-fashioned, aka Sazerac, is bringing the game up to the next level. Hopefully, I will help you bring the game up to the next level today. So let's start by pouring our very first liqueur, which is Panettone Limoncello. Give you a few seconds to pour it in, and I will do the same. Talking about Amalfi Coast, we are definitely speaking of liqueurs from the Amalfi Coast. I believe there was a message that popped up. I missed it. So if at the end, maybe Alicia or somebody, if there's anything I missed, if you can help me grab those. So Panettone is one of the oldest and most representative companies of liqueurs in Rome. It was founded in 1875. It's a Roman company, but the limoncello itself is made with the famous Sfusato lemon, which is the type of lemon that grows in Sorrento, Capri, and to my native Ischia, which are they're very big lemons, and they have such great oil flavors. And so that the flavors of those oils will obviously make a very unique product. It's very versatile. It's a very fun liqueur. And a fun fact about this is that if you go to Southern Italy, it is usually offered at no cost. So most of the times they will just put a bottle on the table and it's free. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a piece of our heart. So the appearance is a slightly cloudy, milky yellow. Let's go ahead and give this a swirl. And a smell. Oh, you get that lemon zest? Very nice. And I'm getting some anise, again, some faint anise, minty, eucalyptic flavors. Let me know if you're smelling anything that I am not smelling. Or now let's give it a taste and see. Smells divine. Wow, love it. Thank you. Yes, I agree. It does smell divine. So now let's go ahead and give this a sip. Now remember, don't swallow. Sip. Swish, 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 and then swallow. Let's do this. So good, so good. So now that we've swallowed it, right? We've had the joy of the limoncello. Let's see. One of the best limoncello, and I make my own. Yes, yes, yes. Love the candied lemon finish. Yes, indeed, candied lemon finish. It's clean, it's lemony, right? I now have a mouthful of lemon, a sweet lemon, which by the way, yes, there is sugar in it. But in Italy, our lemons are very sweet already. So in Italian standards, you just have a very sweet, lemony mouth. So with this lemon aftertaste, as an example, what could be an easy pair? So when assuming or combining flavors with beverages, I like to do basically three different things. One is what's a contrast. The other one is what's a complement, and the third one is what's a safe bet. Right? A safe bet is putting jam on bread. Right? It's a safe bet. Bread is a good platform for everything. Let me see. I love an olive oil cake with this one. Yes, 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 yes. You hit the nail on the head with olive oil, of course. Highly acidic. One of the best, my favorite pairing with this is something like a Caprese salad, right? So now you're adding a little bit of lemon acid to the Caprese salad because acid kind of blocks other acid. If you're eating a tomato right now, right, because of the acid in the lemon, you're going to get less acid from the tomato, and you're going to get more of that sweet tomato flavor. Then next to it, you have the mozzarella cheese, which is very, very buttery and ready, you know, for a nice little lemon flavor. Cured meats also go very well. They're highly high in acid. Zabaione now, please. Yes, zabaione, sugar and egg yolk, and the egg has to be like 1 minute old. Love it. Very, very good. Yes, it was. Thank you. It was very, very good. And so, so the cured meats, right, also have are also really high in acid, and so that's a very complement pairing, right? High acid from a cured meat and high acid from the limoncello, a match made in heaven. Those meats are going to have more meat flavor. Coffee is also very high in acid. So if you drink the limoncello after the coffee, obviously you're going to get a much rich, bold coffee flavor because the acid is kind of subdued a little bit. Now, those were complementary pairings. What is a contrast? What's like the other side of the spectrum? Well, herbs, of course. Herbs are trying to give you those herbaceous flavors, right? And so they're trying to pull you over here, while the lemon is trying to drag you over here. So that's a nice little contrast pairing. Of course, sweet food, because the sweet and the acid are going to do a little bit of yin yang, which I love. And then what's a safe pairing? Well, a safe pairing would be maybe those foods that welcome any element of seasoning on them, just like a cream or potatoes or rice or pasta with no sauce on it. Of course, you're going to taste those and you're going to have that flavor. Now, by the way, has anybody noticed that we swallowed this, what, 3-4 minutes ago? Did I forget to turn on the timer again? I do this all the time. Sorry, give me a second because I don't, oh, I did. Okay, Italian time. So have you noticed that the flavor is still in your mouth? That's what's the amazing thing about these products. It's not about the 5 seconds when you drink them. It's about what they do to your mouth and what they do to your life for a very long time after you've swallowed them. Let me know what you think. I appreciate all your comments. And we'll go from there. Let's see. All right, I don't see any comments for now, but the next one we're gonna move on to is Amaro Ramazzotti. So an Amaro is a bitter, sweet, herbal liqueur, which is traditional of Italy, and it's consumed typically as a digestif. But as it's traveled the world, other cultures have really taught us that there are so many more uses for it, and for that, Italy says thank you, because these liqueurs are in fact very tasty, and they really do have so much to offer. I'm going to go ahead and pour me Amaro Ramazzotti. All right. Yes, thank you, Liz. All right. Let's go ahead and give this a swirl. Ramazzotti was created, this Amaro was created in 1815. It is actually the first Amaro ever created, 1815. Think about it. This is over 200 years old. They've had quite enough time to perfect their recipe. It was created in Milan, and it's made from a secret recipe of 33 herbs. Nobody would tell me, because if they told me, they would have to kill me, and I have a child and I like life. So I said, never mind, don't tell me. We do know that there are some Sicilian oranges, rosemary, and turmeric, a few ingredients that they will give you. What else is there to say about this? Oh, Ausano Ramazzotti was the first person that brought this type of liqueur at a time when everything else was made from grapes. They were grape-based. Of course, in Italy, we have a few grapes. And so all of our liqueurs were always unaged brandy-based liqueurs. And then Ausano Ramazzotti brought this, which was grain-based, and it was a very innovative product at the time. So the appearance is deep brown, right? Let's go ahead and give a swirl. The reason why we want to swirl is, of course, we want those aromas to kind of boost up, so that when we put our nose inside, we can get what we get, which is, please let me know what you're getting. I am getting root beer, maybe some candied grapefruit. Fennel, yes, I do agree. A nice little fennel, maybe some nutmeg, a little bitter. Licorice, liquirice, yes, 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 yes. I like licorice. Well, you know, licorice, fennel, they both are anethol, so, you know, I frequently confuse those as well. Root beer, yes. Full baking spices in general, indeed. All right, let's go ahead and give this a taste. I'm sure some of you have already drunk it, but I can't see you, so you're not in trouble. So nice, so chewy, so delicious. That's got some heat. It does have some heat. Yes, 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 it does. Especially after that nice acidic limoncello. Remember, the job of this Amaro is to help with your digestion. So it needs to come to the table with a heavy amount of herbs and sugar and the alcohol kick, because of course all three of those help kickstart your digestion. But what else is kickstarted right now? My mouth is very watery. I mean, I can barely, I'm having a hard time to keep it dry. But what are we tasting? It's quite bitter, right? I get the root beer flavor is back, and some really hard spice, some really, you know, big on the spices. Maybe cinnamon, maybe like the cloves and nutmeg. As somebody had mentioned, your traditional baking spices are all here present. What does your aftertaste taste like, right? And I guess the best way for me to transition my mouth from I just swallowed to aftertaste is, now that I have it in my mouth, I just close my mouth and I swallow, right? And so any leftover saliva flavored ramazzotti is going down, and I have this leftover seasoned mouth. Cinnamon for sure, yes. Licorice, cinnamon, I get candied orange. I'm getting almost like a cola, or like chicory of some type, right? So this is a beautiful seasoning for what? What would you do with licorice and bitter and spices flavoring your mouth and chicory? Well, a complement pairing would be probably something like an orange creme caramel. It would take on a more herbal twist, yet retain those orange flavors that are also found, by the way, inside this Amaro. And the cream of the creme caramel really knows how to handle these big flavors. Once again, this is no Boy Scout here. This is a big sweet liqueur. The chicory flavors will mellow out the coffee flavor, of course. And so I think that a good coffee flavored cake would do very well in this case. And again, because I have this bitter mouth, and bitter increases bitter, then, like a dark chocolate, right? Nice dark chocolate flavor. With this Amaro, it would be an overload of bitter and orange flavors, which I would really think is yummy. Those are more complementary, right? They work well together. Livio. Livio, question. Are we, oops, sorry, I missed you. I had a question about cocktails. You need to get some chocolate. Yes, we do. Sorry, I will for sure answer questions.
I can see the question. Are we starting to see this type of Amaro in cocktails? Like Sinar, but obviously quite different.
Oh, yes, we are. So are we starting to see this type of Amaro in cocktails is the question. So yes, a lot, as a matter of fact. And again, American bartenders and even overseas in the UK, they have really taught us a trick in Italy that we had overlooked, which was adding Amaros to cocktails. Now, Ramazzotti, you mentioned Cynar in your request below. Now, Cynar is what I like to call an apothecary style of Amaro. It's more medicinal, more bitter, unbelievably delicious. Ramazzotti is on the other side of the spectrum. It's what I like to call a pastry style Amaro. Remember, we got those baking spices, we got those sugars. This is a product that was created more as a beverage versus the Cynar style, right, are those products that were created more as medicine and retained those traditional medicinal flavors. So believe it or not, if you took a cocktail like an old fashioned, right? Let's go back to the old fashioned sugar, bitters, water. Instead of the sugar and the bitters, right, you would add the Ramazzotti in it. You would get a really nice root beer, coffee, bitter, licorice flavored old fashioned. Forget about it. On the other side of the spectrum, if you replace that Ramazzotti with Cynar, you would get again, another style of delicious cocktail. It would just be a little bit on the other side of the spectrum. So great question. Amaros make great modifiers. I wrote a book out there called The 12 Cocktails, and in the 12 cocktails, it explains to you how you can take a liqueur and replace it with another in your favorite cocktail, and it will really bloom, and you'll learn how to enjoy that liqueur so easily. Oh, that sounds amazing. Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, contrast pairing. I'm thinking juicy, salty foods, right? That can handle those rich, big flavors that are on my palate and that are left behind by the Amaro. My ultimate favorite, by the way, and this is a pairing I do, is, as you can see, I have quite a few bottles of this. Ramazzotti is a staple in my house, is pot stickers. However, it's all those sorts of umami, rich Asian foods that do very well, but you know, your seasoned Ramazzotti palette with pot stickers is the way to go. And for like a safe bet, oh yes, for like a safe bet, maybe like our Italian dessert panettone. The reason why, of course, it's a sponge cake, but the reason why I like panettone is because panettone is typically very dry, and dry sponge cakes are waiting for something humid to come in. They're just sitting there going, where is wet? And so when you drink this and you eat a panettone, they were just meant to hang out together. Am I missing anything else? Any other comments? Please feel free to add. Great idea for warmer weather. Yes. So I have fun doing watermelon with salt. Would you cook with this? Reducing, oh yes, absolutely. I will be honest with you, I have never cooked with Amaro, so I've never experienced what happens when you reduce it. But of course, it's so rich and tasty and flavorful. And because of that, of course, the reduction, again, I would start with safe bets. What are safe bets? A reduction on top of a vanilla ice cream, or right on a steak, right? Because steak has those salty, you know, big acidic flavors, and it can handle the Amaro reduction, and the Amaro reduction can handle the steak. So sorry, people are taking pictures of me. Hi, I'm feeling very famous right now. I love the comments. Keep them coming, please. We're going to move on while we're at it to our next product, and this is Meleti Sambuca. Sambuca is a sweet anise and licorice flavored liqueur. This product actually has ties to my island of Ischia, and it has many ties to Rome, actually Civitavecchia, which was where the first legal Sambuca production plant was was produced. But Sambuca is typically, you know, a sweet liqueur that you either drink on its own, drink with a splash of water, which if you have some water and you feel to add a little bit, you can, or in an espresso, for instance, if you get an espresso, right, and you do not wish to add coffee in it, you just add a little bit of the Sambuca. It's not fancy. There's no get a spoon, put your pinky out, as people would lead you to believe. You just swirl it like that. And you take a swig, and now the sweet and the licorice flavor coming from the Sambuca with the tart, highly acidic, rich coffee flavors, home run. Let's go ahead and pour Meletti. Meletti Sambuca. Okay. All right, so the Meletti family has been producing some of Italy's most beloved liqueurs in a city called Ascoli Piceno since the 1870s. So Meletti, just like Pallini and many other producers, they make several liqueurs. They don't just make Sambuca. Of course, we're trying the Sambuca today, and I think theirs is a wonderful expression. It uses the anise plants that are cultivated in Ascoli Piceno. Sambuca in Italy can get very squirrely. Some of them start to taste all the same, and some producers simply make it to jump into the Sambuca game. So when you're looking at a Sambuca, when picking one, Meletti is always a good bet because they source their ingredients locally, and they put passion in the product themselves. So appearance, crystal clear, right? Getting basically some water notes. Let's go ahead and give it a swirl. And aroma, flowery, licorice, really viscous, yes. That's why if you want to add a little bit of water, if you add a little bit of water, I'm going to show you what happens. Flop. See how it just got cloudy? That's called the louche event because the essential oils in the anise do not mix well in the water. So they're clashing a little bit. So you get a little bit of a cloudy note, but it's no big deal. You find that also in some whiskeys that are not chill filtered. It's just the reaction of essential oils and water that are doing their thing. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. Keep it in your mouth. Remember, it's an investment for your aftertaste. Ooh, I am into the viscosity. It's great, isn't it? Viscosity isn't easy to achieve. It's not just sugar, because if you add simply sugar to it, then it becomes very sweet and you can't get the other flavors. I'm actually getting acid. Think about it. I have a highly acidic mouth right now. So adding sugar and making it thick isn't going to work because now you're going to cover acid, anethol, licorice, and all those other, and black peppercorn, by the way, which I'm getting a lot of flavors. So this is a really good balancing act. Once again, these people have a lot of time on their hand to perfect this product to make it taste really good. I did see some comments. I'm sorry, I was on my soapbox. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to add. Jump on them again. I'm getting black pepper, I'm getting the aniseed, and I'm getting a lot of toffee, right? Are you tasting what I'm tasting? Toffee, aniseed, black pepper. Well, I love the black pepper, honestly. Probably the most commonly and easy to use spice in the world is black pepper. So with that, what can we pair with something like this, or what would complement something like this? Well, it's a perfect complement for the richness of beef or grilled swordfish, right? A nice Greek, traditional Greek dish like that. And it's also, so think about a licorice glaze on top of this grilled swordfish with lemon and a little bit of basil or mint. Just unbelievable, right? As far as cocktails go, I think Sambuca works very well. I work a lot with it because it's one of my passion products. It does a lot in taking a monochromatic cocktail and turning it up and bringing it up a notch. Did anyone else lose sound or is my internet messing up? Please let me know through text if you can hear me. You still have sound. Okay, so sound is still here. All right, thank you for that. On me then. Darn it. Sam, hopefully you can get back and hear me again, and we'd love to get you back on. What else? Complement pairing. We talked about Greek food. We talked about this Mediterranean food where it's light, it's easy. There's a lemon flavor to it. And in a cocktail, take something monochromatic. Just like I showed you the example of coating an old fashioned, and an old fashioned is far from monochromatic, right? But something that is a 2-ingredient, a vodka and OJ, or a vodka and cranberry, or something that in essence just has alcohol and one flavor. If you add a little sambuca in it, you crank up its sugar content, but you also get this nice acid, you get this licorice, you get this black pepper. Think about cracking black pepper into a cocktail. It's really, really good. So that is how I like to use sambuca when it comes to a cocktail. And of course, 1 part sambuca to 2 parts of water over ice is just such a refreshing beverage. I don't know that it qualifies as a cocktail. It's just diluted sambuca, but it's so good, so refreshing, so delicious. What about a contrast pairing? Honey, right? Honey with black pepper is delicious. Savory chicken and lamb dishes from the Middle East, or marinated chicken. Think about what's going on in your mouth right now. Then you have a marinated chicken, and imagine how good that would be. For a safe pairing right now, if I had just like either a brothy simple soup or a creamy soup, and I had this mouth coated with the sambuca right now, and I would take 1 spoon of that brothy soup or of that creamy soup, oh, that would be amazing. And I'm sorry I keep on missing comments, but keep them coming, please. Let's see, any other comments before I jump on to the next? Feel really good with grapefruit soda. Indeed, absolutely. I agree. Anything soda-ish, and remember, the magic thing about sodas and beverages that sparkle is they have bubbles. I love bubbles. Bubbles aren't just pretty looking. They aren't just, they don't just sound cool. Bubbles have this tingling effect on your palate. When you have something that's overly rich and too big or too cloying or too whatever, by adding a little bit of soda and bubbles on it, now think about it, your palate is reaching only half of your palate is getting those ingredients, because the other half is getting little air pockets coming from the bubbles, so they subdue some big rich flavors. So anything soda but grapefruit was indeed a really good call. Last ingredient that we have and that we're going to taste today is Strega. The history of Strega starts in Benevento, very close to where I grew up in 1860. It still today occupies the same historical building that's right next to the train station in Benevento. How did this product come to be? Well, besides the fact that there are 70 secret herbs that we do not know about, what the story behind it is that legend says that Benevento, the city of Benevento, is where all the Strega, aka the witches, would meet at night to work on a beverage that would help people fall in love and live better together. My people, yes, yeah. So Benevento became this place. Now, if you don't believe in the story of witches, I will give you a true example. It'll take me 2 minutes of my life, but this is a true story. I used to have a wart on this left finger right here. I grew up playing soccer in Ischia on the island. I grew up playing soccer on an island, and we played in a parking lot next to a beach, and frequently our soccer ball would end up in all sorts of places, and we would have to go knock on people's doors to get them. There was one door that none of us kids ever knocked on, because the lady that was in that house was a quote-unquote Strega. And so we would not go there because we were scared, right? she's a witch. What is she gonna do? And so when the ball went there, we would just go buy another ball. If the ball went anywhere else, we would knock on the door, and this would happen. One day, at some point, as I grew up and I got older and I was no longer scared, I had a friend of mine who said, hey, I know somebody that can remove this wart. Now, granted, I want to preface, I was at least 16 when this happened. So I went to this lady's house who finally I had the courage to knock on the door because I was with somebody who knew her. And this lady had a big sack of white beans. The beans almost looked like very tiny hot dogs. It was a special white bean. And she pulled the bean out of the sack, and she rubbed it on top of my wart, and she just mumbled. I couldn't tell you what she was saying. Just mumbled, mumbled, mumbled. I do not know how long it took after that. Because I was a kid, I was distracted. But I will tell you, the wart was never removed surgically, and I had it for at least 16 years of my life, and it disappeared. So in Italy, the witches are a real deal thing, and so Benevento is where they apparently all met, and this product here is connected to it. I'm going to pour it. Oops, I need to take off the cap. To do that, comments. Smells predominantly of cleaning supplies, but not in a bad way. All right. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and give this a look. I got a bright yellow color, right? Oh, marron. Let's give it a sniff. Vanilla, licorice, a lot of pine, right? A lot of honey. And peppermint. So there are 70 secret ingredients in here, so you can imagine we could probably guess a few of them. There's a lot going on. There really is a lot going on here. Let's go ahead and give this a taste. Oh my gosh. So tasty, so rich, so flavorful. But you know what's quote unquote funny is I am drinking this after I drank this, and this, and it is still showing up to the game as if nothing happened. When you drink, you coat your palate with flavor, and you coat your palate with sugar. And what that means is whatever you're going to drink after that is going to have less flavor. Yet, even though we just drank 3 very rich products, the Strega is still there. Very, very nice. I'm getting a distinguishable flavor of mint and honey and citrus. I'm getting juniper. If I were blindfolded, I would have probably not called it gin because I'm getting a lot of content of sugar, but I would have thought that it was a gin-based product because I'm getting the juniper berry flavor, right? It's very, and you're getting cinnamon too, which I completely agree. Now, on with that seasoned palate and aftertaste. What are you getting? I'm getting peppermint. Very minty, spearmint, menthol, maybe a little bit left over of that honey. Tastes like a gin-based cocktail. Yeah, I agree with that as well, very much. Not that it would be the main ingredient, but what is a good way to use it in a cocktail? So what cocktail would benefit from honey and what cocktail would benefit from mint? I think there's 100 ways to go it, and if you probably asked 20 mixologists, they would probably give you different versions of it. But what goes well with honey? Whiskey. Of course, there's honeyed whiskeys. What goes well with mint? Whiskey, right? Because the mint julep. So I'm thinking a whiskey-based cocktail, whether it would be very boozy, such as an old-fashioned, again, going back to that, all pure alcohol with the Strega in it, or whether it would be something a little bit more refreshing, like a julep that has those citrus flavors and the soda. But I am, like I said, and of course it has the juniper flavor, so it would pair well in a gin-based cocktail. Let's call it a French 75 with that has lemon and champagne, and then we're adding some honey and some mint to that game. It would also be amazing. But like I said, if you ask 20 mixologists, they would probably give you 20 different versions. Those are of course my versions. That's what my mouth is telling me right now. Please keep on coming with those comments. Okay, going back to the richness of grilled beef right now or swordfish, what dish would really like mint right now? Oh, I would eat this with chocolate. Yes, I completely agree. And so what dishes go well with mint? Chocolate, right? Think about a chocolate brownie. To the going back to something that needs a little bit of humidity, right? A chocolate brownie, it's rich, it's bold, it's thick, it's got all that. What does it need? It needs a little bit of minted honey in its life. Can confirm eating it with a brownie. Love it, love it. Yes, yes, yes. That's a contrast pairing, right? It's the chocolate of the brownie is trying to take you over here. The mint, honey, juniper, piney flavors of Strega is taking it over here, and your mouth is going, what is going on here? Floated in your mojito or floated in your mint julep. It's a very versatile liqueur. And I hate to say this, but it goes without said that all of these are consumed in Italy over ice cream. So if you want to do an affogato, an affogato basically means drowning or choking in Italian. So you're in essence drowning your ice cream with Strega liquore or limoncello or sambuca or amaro ramazzotti. All of those would be really, really good. Any questions, comments? We have one right here. Who here has a bottle of bourbon off the side and is, yes. Well, I think that is a really good idea. Ice cubes and bourbon and this. Think about, even if you don't want to go old fashioned style, think about Manhattan style. Manhattans are a little bit easier. There's no muddling. So you would basically take a mixing glass, add ice, add 2 parts or 2 ounces of bourbon or rye, 1 ounce or 1 part of the Strega, right? Give it a little stir. There's no need for bitters. Why? Because there's so much flavors here. You stir them in a cocktail glass, and my little accent instead of the bitters would just be a squeeze of the essential oil of an orange, and that's a beautiful thing. What about using Amaro instead of vermouth in a Manhattan? Home run, home run, absolutely a home run, because they are very similar, right? The bitter notes are there. Vermouth is going to go more acid. Amaro is going to go more sweet. So your Manhattan, rather than being bitter acid and whiskey, it's going to be bittersweet and whiskey. Match made in heaven. Isn't that a Black Manhattan? Yeah, some people give it that name. I don't know that the Black Manhattan is a classic cocktail, right? It's a username for people that make a Manhattan with Amaro in it. Love the questions. Keep them coming. Let's see the next one. How common is it for Italians to sip these with meals instead of wine? You would be surprised with dessert. So wine and beer takes over the meal experience in Italy up until dessert time. When dessert time comes, and by dessert I also mean espresso, it's that after dinner ritual time, these liqueurs take over the show. And quite frankly, you can understand why wine wouldn't stand up to rich, amazing, sweet liqueurs. Of these would, oh, I missed it. Sorry, I wish Zoom would give me more time to read. If you want to ask that question again, happy to answer it.
The question was, of these, would these all be considered digestivos, or would any be considered aperitivos?
Ooh, such a good question. Okay, so I'm going to be philosophical here for 2 minutes. You know, send me a red X if I'm going too far. All of these are technically digestivos, right? Why? Because of the high amount of sugar, right? Sugar is not something you wish to give somebody at the beginning of the meal. It coats your palate. It gives you a sense of satisfaction. The last thing you need when you're ready to eat is, oh, I am satisfied. So because of that, they are all more in the digestivo family. But through mixology, and by mixology, I literally just mean equal parts of water, they immediately transition into an aperitivo. Why? Because the sugar level goes down and the properties of lemon, hello lemon, tart, right? Great aperitivo, or bitter kickstarter of the appetite, or high acid anise, another quick starter of the appetite, or piney juniper minty. All of these, once they're subdued with simply a little bit of water or good mixology, right? Soda and champagne, prosecco, they all become really good aperitivos. Great question. Great question. And by the way, the younger Italian generation is starting to be more and more influenced by what's happening overseas as well. So the concept of the younger people only drinking wine with a meal is decreasing, and implementing liqueurs of all sorts is highly increasing, because as you know, Italy has thousands and thousands of liqueurs, some of them very local. The island I grew up on, the island of Ischia, alone has about 7 Amaros, and we are 55,000 people. So there's a lot of local things that mean more than just a glass of wine to some of our younger generations. Any other questions? All righty, well, I don't see any more comments, so I just want to recap a little bit. Italian liqueurs are delicious, and their aftertaste, what they leave in your palate, which is a bragging right, by the way. Not a lot of liqueurs leave you an amazing aftertaste, because most liqueurs are made with synthetic coloring, sugar, and flavoring. And so when you swallow it, all you're left with is the flavor of a simple syrup. But Italian liqueurs have an amazing aftertaste, and they are a great seasoning for foods from all over the world. We've talked about Greek food, we've talked about steak, we've talked about brownies, we've talked about Caprese salad from Italy, we spoke about umami rich flavors from Asia. So Italian liqueurs really pair well with international foods, and of course their aftertaste is the best way to pair it. Any more questions out there? Okay, limoncello in the freezer should the others be refrigerated upon opening? No. So limoncello goes in the freezer. It doesn't have to, right? And when it goes in the freezer, of course, it becomes an easier digestivo. Okay, so from Colangelo, please feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask any questions now. But so limoncello is great in the freezer, right? When you put it in the freezer, you're subduing some of the more sweeter stuff in your palate, is of course being numbed, and it becomes a little bit easier to drink. Few Amaros go in the freezer or in the refrigerator, but it just changes the experience. It's not because you should. Amaros are intended to be enjoyed neat or with one ice cube, but of course, who am I to say how people should enjoy it? That's just historically how they were enjoyed. Sambuca, 2 parts water, amatsa cafe, which means after your coffee or in your coffee, but no refrigerator, and please no refrigerator for Strega liquore, because again, when you're adding cold to your palate, you're subduing some really nice flavors, and they put those flavors in with their heart. So if anybody is unmuted and you have any questions, I would love to answer. They could be about anything: Italian culture, food, drinks. And just don't ask me for a loan, please. No money. Don't have it. All right, so with that, I'll just wrap it up. I want to thank all of those who made this happen. Of course, the Italian Trade Agency and its partner brands, which again are Pallini, Ramazzotti, Meletti, Sambuca, and Liquore Strega. Of course, there are other partner brands. Please visit the ITA's very humble website. There's actually a lot of very valuable information on all sorts of liqueurs that might help you when you're fact finding or fact checking. I want to thank Colangelo and Partners for, of course, helping put all this together. And of course, I want to thank you for hanging out with us today. Like I said, not for 1 minute did I feel like I was talking to the screen. You were very interactive, and it was very nice hearing from you. Somebody said yes, please. Yes, please to what? Please share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
This is great.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much. I learned so much, so thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. You enjoy your evening. Thank you. Thank you.